So hello everyone, can you see my slides okay?
Yeah.
Excellent. So my name is Lyn Taylor. I'm working at Excel as an Associate Director of Biostatistics. And today I'm going to talk to you about the choices I've made along the way to get me where I am and some of the specialist areas that you can work in. So how did I get sort of even into the pharmaceutical industry? At school, I was like really good at maths, but I honestly found it just a bit boring. I didn't really see what careers it could lead to other than sort of teaching maths. So I also did A-levels of like history and German, and I quite liked the communication style of languages and talking to people. So I was kind of very mixed and not the normal kind of mathematician. My grades were just way better at maths than they were at languages. So I discussed with my maths teacher and he was like, well, do something more applied. So I went to Sheffield Hallam University and did a BSc in applied statistics and where it could lead. And when I applied to see, what were on offer, I was lucky enough to SmithKline Beecham, which is now, so this one-year place really highlighted to me how you can use statistics for a purpose and mathematics for a purpose. And also meeting people from lots of different fields. So I was working in a phase group, and so it was with scientists that were working in labs doing in vitro assays on cells. And it was also working with the group of scientists working with the animals there. And I think what really highlighted to me at this point was that people that are very good at medicine may not have very much experience in statistics at all, but actually statistics can really help them do their job better, such as doing sample size calculations for reducing the number of animals that are being used, and how that is then really good for society. So it was really varied work. It involved a lot of communication skills and finding out what people's problems were in their day-to-day work and what we could help them with from a statistical perspective. It was designing studies, analysing data cleaning. A lot of the data we got was in spreadsheets, so it wasn't like big databases or anything like that, and a lot of it was quite small data because they may have just done a couple of assays or as few animal tests as subjects as possible. And so you work very closely with the scientists, and it also involved a lot of different packages. So lots of stats packages, and I've got lots of experience in jumping between whichever package was a specialism for the analysis we were doing. So I really enjoyed that collaboration, and it also highlighted to me how the big pharmaceutical companies can have extremely good social clubs and a work-life kind of balance, and you get to meet a lot of people and make really good friends that people you work with aren't necessarily just your colleagues, they can become your lifelong friends as well. So when I finished that BSc in applied stats, I realized that you needed an MSc really to go into pharma, and that was kind of the standard degree level that everybody had. So I went and did a medical statistics MSc at Leicester University, and this is where I really came across doing more in-depth survival analysis and more clinical trials, so the later phase, and testing on patients and how that sort of research is done, introducing Bayesian methods and surveys and inference, and then also, looking at more wider publications and meta-analyses. My research project for my dissertation was actually looking at interval censored data and survival analyses. And I really realized during this time that I was more of like an applied statistician. The more inferential stats I kind of struggled with the theory of, and I could kind of just about get by on it, but I really enjoyed more using my statistics, interpreting it, and sort of using it to make changes and decisions. So I decided to go into pharmaceutical work rather than stay in academia. And I think I was kind of just afraid that I wasn't clever enough to do proper research, as I'd call it, at university. So actually like developing statistical methods, more applying existing methods correctly to collected data. So on this course, I was lucky enough to meet someone who was working at a company called Parexel, and I was based in Sheffield at the time. And I think it was the only kind of company I could kind of find in Sheffield at that time that were pharmaceutical based, or a contract research organization, so a company that works for other pharmaceutical companies. I don't think I even knew the clinical trials units existed and that they did medical research at the same time as this. But I just applied at Parexel and kind of fell into it, got the job, and so didn't really consider applying to a lot of places. And Parexel, like a lot of other big pharma companies, they do have a very clear, structured progression. So I actually ended up staying there for 9 years, progressing from a statistician 1, statistician 2, up to senior statistician. And what I really happened during that time is they invested a lot of further education in me, sending me on courses and conferences, such as like the PSI conference, an introduction to industry, where you get to see how statistics is used in lots of different areas, from early phase to late phase, and then marketing. I did sample size courses, repeated measures courses, adaptive design courses, Bayesian, contemporary issues in sample size, repeated measures, and then also data monitoring committee course as well. And that's in addition to kind of the on-the-job training that I was doing, and sort of just getting up to speed with what it is to be a pharmaceutical statistician. And what really comes out is the work's really varied. So you can be doing SAS programming and analysing the data, and then the next minute you can be writing analysis plans, doing randomizations, pharmacokinetics like PK, looking at the drug metabolism through the body. It really does involve closely working with medics and clinicians, as well as data managers who are like who are collecting the data and cleaning the data. And then you have the project managers that are trying to bring us all together and make sure we work together as a single team for the good of getting the patients on the study, the data collected, the data cleaned, and then it analysed and then submitted to the regulators, and then that drug going out there onto the market to really make a difference to human lives. During this time, I worked mostly in phases 1, 2, and 3, which are from first time in man, phase 1, to phase 3, which are the really big clinical trials, maybe with 3,000, 4,000 patients on them worldwide. So it is quite varied. Some of the phase 1s could just be on 12 patients. And I also worked in a real varied amount of indications. Because this is a CRO, we have expertise in a really varied indication and work for a large number of pharmaceutical companies. So I worked in cancer, asthma trials, even like knee and hip replacement surgeries, leukemia, lupus vaccine, and then pain studies. And again, the sports and social side of it was really good fun, because there was monthly social events and social clubs. And Parexel was kind of a homegrown company that was later sold to an American company. So it still had that kind of family feel, which was really nice. After around 9 years, I kind of felt like I was just churning out the same old, and I wasn't really learning a lot of new things. The studies coming around were kind of studies that I was familiar with. And I also felt like I'd forgotten the methods of teaching myself new methods. And I was getting a bit concerned that I was losing my stats knowledge and doing a little bit too much kind of project management and maybe team management. So I decided after 9 years at Parexel to return to academia. I was doing my PhD full-time. I absolutely loved it. It was a brilliant career break. And I was looking at modelling markers of severity in rheumatoid arthritis. So it's still medical research based. The team at SHA were just fantastic. And, you know, if I could do it again, I definitely would. But it just demonstrates how easy it is to move from industry to academia. And this was, you know, just studying one thing over all this time. Again, it's really nice team spirit there with lots of other PhD students all looking after each other, and a great supervisor support. Lyn Taylor was actually my supervisor, who's been mentioned already today. And I think the organization that I'd learned from being in industry, so how to make sure you look after your emails in a tidy manner, following standard operating procedures and clear rules and regulations of how to do things, really helped actually with the organization of my PhD, and it kind of kept me on track. So I got my PhD and had to decide what to do next. And I loved being in academia and I loved being in industry, and it was a really, really hard decision of what to do. In the end, I decided to go back into pharmaceutical work. Not saying that it would be forever, but it was just sort of the decision I made at the time. It just seemed a bit more comfortable. To me, it felt like less pressure than having to get grants and write papers. And because I wasn't that academic, I was still very applied. I kind of missed working with the medics and finding out what they needed and driving that medical research from a existing methods, applying them point of view, rather than a developing of new methods and writing papers point of view. So I actually went back to PowerExcel again at a higher level, principal statistician, because I have my PhD. And this time I was working on psoriasis. And then I left there and went to PRA, which is another CRO company. This is around the time that home-based working was becoming really popular, back in sort of 2015. So I was fully home-based for these 3.5 years, and it opened up a lot of other companies then that I was able to work for, making sure that I progressed through the ranks and became like a senior principal statistician. At PRA, I focused my stats work a lot on multiple imputation, because missing data was a real hot topic, and something called estimands, which I don't know if people will have heard of, but it's a ICHE9, which is like one of the regulatory guidance. It was a new hot topic in that area. So there was new methods for analysing data which were becoming popular, and I was getting really interested in them. I also got exposed to a lot of data monitoring committee work, which I really enjoy, which is working directly with unblinded medics, so people that know what the results are of the trial in an ongoing way throughout it, and they have to make safety decisions about the trial. And that was really interesting work, learning about what they do. I got more into line management, but there was quite rapid change because the company was growing really big and really quickly. And I just found that I took on too much, really. I think I love change and I love saying yes to everything, but I just kind of took on a little bit too much. So I left there and went to Faster, and then it's almost the same old. I went into a small company that was growing in Sheffield, and then it grew and grew and grew. And then I was suddenly a manager of like 44 people, and I was still trying to lead projects, and I was still trying to do statistics. So I was like, hang on, let's reassess what I want to do again. What's really important to me in my day-to-day work, and what do I really enjoy? And so what I've just done is I've started a new job on Monday, back again at PowerExcel, wanting to sort of drop the line management more and the project management and just get back into statistics. I think it's very difficult to do all three in a big way. So I think to kind of try all of them, this career gives you the opportunity to do that. And if you love line management, you might just do that and then, not focus on the stats as much. But for me, I wanted to make time for my outside of job things, but still do some of the kind of more extracurricular stuff that I enjoy doing. So there's a PSI medical statistician apprenticeship scheme that we've kicked off, and we're promoting the use of R in the industry, and R is getting loads bigger. So there's special interest groups that look in that, and then looking again back at my estimands and my multiple imputation stuff, which I was really interested in sort of 4 years ago, and then I haven't had much time to sort of look into it. And so in summary, I think in pharma, it gives you a real wide range of areas to explore. You can choose which way you go. So whether it's preclinical, clinical trials, real world evidence studies, econometrics, you can drive that. You can choose your therapeutic areas based on what companies you want to work for, and tell them what you want to work in. There's loads of methods to become an expert in. If you're not happy, move around, you get fast progression. It's a bit prone to long hours, that's the downside, and very hard work. So look after yourself, make sure that you're taking regular breaks, and that you'd say no. No is a good word to say, I can't do this, I'm too busy. And you can choose to be narrow or an expert in a wider area. And the collaborations, I think, is what makes it a really fun place to work. And a real diverse workforce, from medics to medical writers and real technical statisticians to more applied ones. And you can move into management really easily if you choose to. So I think that's my last slide, just to give you a sense of how many different pharmaceutical companies there are. There's biotech companies and contract research organizations, which is the organizations I've always worked for, because I've enjoyed that. But I know some people would never want to work for a contract research organization, that always work for a pharma company themselves. But there's no harm in trying both and then deciding and moving between the two. And again, moving back into academia, if you want that time to really research something in depth and do what the other presenters have shown you today, I think that opportunity is always there to you. So yeah, I think that's everything I was trying to say today. Thanks very much for your time and for listening.
Great, thank you very much, Lyn.